The morning sun slipped through the thin curtains and landed straight on the unwashed dishes in Ryan's tiny kitchen, turning leftover curry stains into little golden shapes. He stood there with his hands in the soapy water, shoulders aching from too many shifts and too little sleep, when his phone buzzed on the counter. One unknown number. One missed call. Then another. His heart started beating faster, because even before he picked it up, the memories of yesterday afternoon came crashing back, his boss swaying on her feet in front of important clients, the sharp smell of alcohol in the middle of a brightly lit hotel restaurant, the way everyone's judgmental eyes turned toward her, and the way he, a tired single dad who could barely keep his own life together, had stepped forward to save her from losing everything. He remembered her leaning on his arm, her eyes unfocused, her voice breaking as she whispered things she would never say sober. And now it was morning, and she had undoubtedly remembered everything. If you believe that kindness and second chances still matter in this world, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Stories of Kindness, because what happened between this single dad and his boss might change the way you look at people who make mistakes. Ryan Ahmed had not planned on becoming a single father at 32. Life had never asked his permission when it took his wife from him during a sudden illness that began like a simple fever and ended with a hospital room full of beeping machines and silence. After that, everything in his world shrank to a tiny rented apartment, a 7-year-old girl named Mira who still slept with her mother's scarf, and a job at a marketing firm that barely covered school fees and groceries. Every morning, the city woke with a roar around them, rickshaws honking, buses grumbling, shop shutters rolling up. Ryan woke up even earlier, packing Myra's simple lunch, braiding her hair with clumsy fingers, promising her that one day things would be easier. At the office, he was known as the quiet one who always stayed late, the man who avoided gossip and kept his head down. His boss, on the other hand, was the opposite in every way. Aisha Mir was a name people said with a mix of admiration and fear. She was in her late 30s, always in crisp pastel suits, her hair pinned neatly, eyes sharp as if measuring the worth of every word spoken around her. She ran the department like a military operation, always chasing targets, chasing perfection, chasing something invisible that seemed to keep running away from her. To her, Ryan was just another employee in a sea of faces, someone who turned in good work and never complained. On the day that changed everything, the sky was a wide, clear blue with the sun shining so brightly it made the office windows glow like mirrors. It was supposed to be a celebration, the firm had finally closed a huge deal, and Aisha had arranged a daytime client lunch at a rooftop hotel restaurant, the kind you only see in magazines, with glass railings, hanging plants, and white tablecloths that looked too expensive to stain. Ryan had already been on edge that morning because his usual babysitter had called to say she was sick. With no family nearby and no time to argue, he had done the only thing he could. He brought Mira to the office with him, telling her to sit quietly in a small meeting room with her coloring books, promising he would peek in between tasks. When Aisha saw the little girl walking behind him, her expression tightened for a moment. She reminded him in a cool, professional tone that this was a serious day and that personal distractions could not interfere. Ryan nodded, swallowing his discomfort, and thanked her for allowing Mira to stay in that room just for a few hours. He focused all his energy on making the presentation perfect for the lunch meeting, his mind juggling numbers, designs, and the image of his daughter alone in that small room, drawing flowers and houses and a mother who no longer came home. The rooftop restaurant was full of daylight when they arrived, the city stretching out below them, shimmering in the heat. The clients were important, the kind of people who did not like to be kept waiting and who watched everything with polite but calculating eyes. Tall glasses of sparkling drinks and orange juice lined the tables. Ryan noticed that Aisha, usually restrained, kept accepting refills of the champagne the staff offered. At first it seemed harmless, just a way to celebrate the big win. But he started to see the subtle signs, the way she laughed a little too loudly at a small joke, how her hand wobbled slightly when she lifted her glass, how her words began to blur at the edges. The sunlight made everything look beautiful, but for Ryan, the brightness only sharpened his worry. The client presentation began, slides flickering on a portable screen even though they were surrounded by blue sky and green plants. Ryan spoke clearly, steady as always, while Aisha added her remarks. But as the minutes passed, her sentences became less structured. She repeated herself, mispronounced a key figure, and then, in one horrifying moment, almost stumbled against the glass railing when she stood to shake a client's hand. He felt the collective intake of breath around the table, saw the flash of judgment in one client's eyes, and realized in that second that Aisha was not just a demanding boss, she was a human being who was unraveling in front of people who could destroy her career. He caught her elbow gently before she could fall, turned it into a respectful gesture as if he were simply guiding her to a seat. He redirected the conversation smoothly, apologizing to the clients for the heat of the afternoon and suggesting they move the rest of the discussion inside the shaded lounge area. He spoke on her behalf, explained the strategy details, answered their questions as if he had rehearsed it all, even though inside he was fighting panic about Mira waiting downstairs and the way his boss's eyes looked watery and distant. To the clients, he made it seem like Aisha was simply overwhelmed by the temperature and fatigue after many late nights of work. He swallowed his pride, taking on the pressure she usually carried, because in that moment he knew that if she fell, a lot of people's lives would be affected, including his own. When the lunch finally ended, the clients left with firm handshakes and neutral faces, promising to review the final documents. The restaurant staff began clearing plates. The sun was still high, casting short shadows. Aisha was sitting on a sofa in the shaded lounge, her eyes unfocused, staring at a spot on the wall as if she were somewhere else entirely. Ryan stood near her, torn between frustration and compassion. She had always demanded perfection from everyone, yet here she was, fragile and lost, the smell of alcohol unmistakable. He knew it would be easy to walk away, to let others see her like this, to let the gossip spread through the company corridors like wildfire. It would be easy to say that someone so hard on others deserved to fall. But then he thought of Mira and the way he had stumbled after his wife died, how people had whispered about him being too broken, too distracted, too emotional. He remembered how one kind manager back then had given him time, patience, and the chance to stay employed. That second chance had kept him and his daughter from slipping into a darkness they might never have escaped. So instead of walking away, he carefully helped Aisha to her feet, thanked the hotel staff quietly, and guided her toward the elevator, explaining to anyone who glanced their way that she was simply unwell from the heat.